Welcome to Audio Path, where we take a real look at making a living in music.
Ever wonder what it's like to make a living in music outside of the big industry hubs? We're here to pull back the curtain with raw, unfiltered conversations about the ups, downs, and everything in between.
Join us, John Kimbrough,
And Trent Harrison,
as we share real-world insights, experiences, and stories from behind the scenes in the music industry. Whether you're an artist, audio nerd, or you just love music, we've got something for you.
this is Audio Path, where the hustle is real and the passion runs deep.
All right, so Trent,
Yeah,
episode 1, man.
here we are, man.
We're here.
We made it.
What are we doing, man? What? How did this happen? Where are we? What?
Yeah,
Talk to me, man.
totally, man.
What's the deal?
It's so this is kind of, it seems like we met several months back. Well, gosh, actually several years ago.
Yeah, I
But,
guess we did. Yeah,
yeah, we
kind of
met
reconnected.
reconnected a couple months back, and we were looking for kind of ways to work together. You're a mastering engineer and a live sound technician.
Yep.
And I'm a sound engineer as well, a mixing and recording engineer primarily. I also do live sound too. So we do a lot of the same things. And we specialize in different parts of the industry. And I just felt through our conversations, I was like, man, I can talk to this dude like for hours.
Same.
Maybe we should tell other people about what we're doing.
That's right.
Who knows? Maybe they'll learn something. If nothing else, we'll have a good time doing it, right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's
So,
the goal, man.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I've got Hourglass Studios here in Wilmington, North Carolina. I do recording, mixing, mastering, editing. We also have Live at Ted's downtown. That's where I do the live sound work. And that's the nutshell of it. So what about you, man? Tell people what you got going on.
Yeah, for sure. So, you kind of already pointed to some of what I do. So, I'm a live engineer, mix for people, travel all over doing that. But I also have a home studio set up. And so I'm a mastering engineer. I mix as well in the studio, but really mastering is kind of my sweet spot. It's what I really love to do.
Yeah.
Which if you don't know what that is, we'll get there eventually. But mastering is super important. And I love doing it well. Yeah, in addition to that, I do some other things too. I do videography as well. So travel around doing video work for people and editing and all that kind of stuff too.
Yep.
And yeah, that's kind of my thing. I've worked in church for a long time. So I was a worship pastor for like 15 years, in addition to like being a production manager at a church.
Nice.
And recently, like just a few months ago, really, stepped into doing freelance stuff full time. So just taking the plunge, just doing engineering 100% of every one of my days. And yeah, it's been cool. It's been a fun journey.
Yeah.
And it's just getting started.
Absolutely, man. That's great. Awesome. Love that.
Yeah.
So today we want to kind of talk about first time experiences in the studio and also on stage, right?
Right.
Pretty much kind of like the ins and outs of those, and maybe give people some insights of what we've seen in our own experiences in the first times in those situations, and then also what we experience with people that are just getting into it and it's their first time. And like how we see what they do, what they could maybe do a little bit better, how we try to help them do that, and hopefully what they take away from it, right?
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, we're kind of coming to it from both sides, studio and stage. And so let's just kind of dive in there. Talk to me about if it's my first time coming to a recording studio. I've never done it before.
Yeah.
Just give me the rundown, man. Like, what do I need to know before I step into somewhere like Hourglass, like where we are
like
right
this.
now?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a good bit that you could know before you came in. And I would say, I mean, one of the main things that I look for whenever I get inquiries for, new projects, people that are, and they will, part of my questionnaire that I send out for new projects is there's an experience question.
That's good.
And I ask them, like, do you have any experience working in a professional studio, or are you more of a hobbyist? Do you have a home recording setup? And that gives me a lot of insight about like what to expect and how I can help them in pre-production ahead of time before they get here.
That's
you
good.
know?
Yeah.
And so, for example's sake, if there's someone that has no professional experience, they don't even have a home recording system, let's just say that they've been writing music. Maybe they're just they're a singer-songwriter. Maybe they're writing on their own, and they're doing it solo. But they've been doing it for years, and they have some decent songs built up.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, like maybe they're getting encouragement from their friends and family, and that they should put some of their music out there. They're feeling good about it, and they're feeling ready, but they are starting at ground level,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what I like to do with them is after I can kind of assess that, I'll either do one of two things. We'll get on a phone call
Mm-hmm.
and I'll pick their brain. I want to know a lot about their history, how they got to where they are now,
Yeah.
and what is leading them into the studio.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And so once I get to know them a little bit and I've talked to them about that, then we can either do one of two things. If they're from out of town, then we can talk about, booking an initial session and like what to expect from that. And then I can kind of walk them through the process of the steps, which I can get into in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they're in town, or close enough that they're willing to come to the studio for a tour, that's what I prefer. I love to like have them come over in a very low pressure situation. We're basically meeting face to face. I'm showing them around the studio. They're getting a chance to feel the energy and the vibe of the place and like see where they are going to end up, what they're going to be working with. We get to meet. I get to learn more about them. We talk about the process then, and that's always a good thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Keeping it really relational.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, I mean, that's what I'm looking for most. Like, of course, I love working on awesome songs,
Sure.
right?
Who doesn't?
And that happens. But, the majority of what I'm looking for is like, can we get along?
Mm-hmm.
Like, can this be a good relationship between, the client and the person they're hiring, myself, right?
Totally.
Or you in any case. And if we got that, then we've got most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we will figure all the rest out for sure.
Right.
But if you don't have that part, it can still happen, but it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah.
Kind of a common theme you'll probably hear us if you keep listening, and please do, is just be a good hang.
Yeah.
Just be a good hang. Like that's 90% of
Totally.
of doing this thing. I mean, music is connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't connect with people very well, then maybe something to kind of, take a look at in the mirror and just be like, am I hard to get along with and why? And anyway.
It's a weird thing because like I feel like a lot of people and maybe some people listening to this right now feel the same way because I know I have in certain points throughout my career is like in the audio world, if you're not like, well, some musicians for sure, but if you're not like the lead singer or lead guitar player, chances are you might be introverted,
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, like myself included, was a pretty introverted person growing up, I feel like. I mean, I would get out there, but never wanted to really be like public speaking, was not a kind of a no-go, Always like to keep it hangs in small groups and stuff like that. Never really, wanted to get out there. But I feel like, that even though that's the case, like if you can somehow break through that, and we can talk about, ways to do that, to become more of a people person, it'll go so far.
Agreed,
so
man.
far.
I've had to walk that path myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an introverted person naturally as well.
Mm-hmm.
I did study voice in college, and so so I was in front of people all the time, and everybody thought I was just hyper extroverted. But man, being in front of people, it takes a lot out of you. It does.
It gets the heart going, and
especially if you don't
scary.
get energy from being around a lot of people. But
absolutely.
Anyway, there are ways to overcome that.
Yeah, and that kind of leads more to like the stage. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think you could tell some people for their first time trying to get on stage.
For sure.
What do you think?
I would say, just from my perspective as an engineer, but also a musician first, before I started learning how to engineer, you know, one of the best things that you can do, I think, before you even get out on a stage is just be super prepared.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a common theme, whether we're talking about being on a stage or we're coming to a studio.
Yeah.
Is you got to know your songs pretty well.
You do.
I mean, you need to know your parts in your songs.
Yeah.
Because things get a little bit weird when you're on a stage and you're in front of a bunch of people that maybe you're going to have an experience where it's like, oh my gosh, like your brain goes to a different place.
Yeah.
You need to know your instrument so well that it's just a part of you.
Right.
You're not thinking about it when you get on stage. You're simply up there expressing.
Yeah.
The only way to do that is to practice and to rehearse and to know your stuff really, really well ahead of time. There's not really a shortcut to it.
No, there's not.
Yeah. And so that's what I always want to tell people when they're like, hey, you know, I'm going to go do an open mic. Like, I'm really nervous. You know, it's my first time.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's really great. Put some time in ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Like a lot, actually. And one of the things I tell people all the time, too, is you'll learn a lot about yourself by practicing in front of a mirror. Like, when you have to look at yourself, it kind of starts to chip away at some of that nervousness. It's going to feel weird and awkward at first.
Right.
But over the course of time, you're going to start to realize, like, this is what I look like. This is who I am as I'm performing or whatever.
Right.
And I'm telling you, that chips away at some stage fright.
I bet, you know, and even though it's you, it's almost like someone's looking back.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that comes from, you know, having studied classical vocal literature. Like, you know, they tell you to do that. You have to watch yourself sing.
Yeah.
That's just part of, like, studying classically.
That's awesome.
So I've taken that into any area, you know, as a multi-instrumentalist myself.
Yeah.
You know, I've practiced in front of a mirror.
That's great.
And even like on guitar, you're like, whoa, I'm using way too much movement there. Like, that needs to be smoother.
Right.
It's good to have that other perspective.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
I would say there's also other practicals, you know, of making sure that you are bringing everything that you need to bring.
Yes.
Depending on how big, you know, of the thing that you're going to go play is. You know, I always make a checklist. Like, anytime that I'm packing up gear and going to go play or, you know, even engineer, I have a literal checklist that I write out so that the day of comes and I just know it's in the car. I've got it. It's good to go. I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And that can look like, depending on what you do, it can be like, you know, microphone cables, mic stands, your microphone, a DI, your pedal board, your amp, like anything that you're actually going to need.
Yeah.
And think about stands. Like, think about a portable guitar stand, for example.
Yeah.
Because the minute you need it and you don't have it, you're going to start thinking about it every time.
Oh, where am I going to put my guitar? And is it going to fall and hit the ground now?
Exactly.
Yeah, little things like that are important. And then I would say, just on that same kind of leg, like, know where you're playing. Like, obviously, you know the place, the name, whatever. Maybe you've been there on the other side of the stage, right? But know what you're getting yourself into, what they provide, and what you know they don't have that they expect you to bring.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of places, if it's an actual venue, they will have pretty much everything except for your instrument, your pedal board, maybe your guitar stand. I mean, we even have guitar stands at Ted's because they're just you know,
they're
just
good to
a couple.
have.
Yeah, just a couple. So, but that's important. And you know, if you're playing breweries or bars or, you know, stuff like that, pubs, they're not going to have hardly anything, and they're going to expect you to bring everything, even down to the extension cable to get your amp plugged into the right place. Right?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. To that end, I would say it's better to be over prepared than under prepared when it comes to the actual stuff.
Yeah.
You know, even if I'm going to go play somewhere and, you know, say I'm going to go, you know, play at a church or whatever, like, I know that they're going to have DI boxes. I know they're going
Right.
to have cables.
Right.
But I still bring them.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't know if on that day, the show before you, it broke.
Mhm.
And they don't happen to have it the next day because it's just not possible,
And
right?
stuff breaks a lot.
It does break a lot.
Stuff breaks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so being prepared.
Being
That's
prepared,
what it's about.
Yep.
Like back to where I was, one of the paths I was trying to take with the studio first time situation.
Mm-hmm.
Being prepared is 100% there too. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to know your music. You got to know your songs in and out.
Mhm.
Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had artists come in and they're like, let's say they're doing 3 songs, okay? They've got 2 of the songs down, right?
Yep.
But one of them doesn't even have a bridge yet,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And they're like, I got the verse and the chorus, and I was kind of just hoping that we could figure it out. I was going to see what you thought, you know? And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
that's great, you know? I'm glad that you want to, try to include me in some of the production and help you with the song a little bit, and I'm totally willing to do that. But in the studio is not the place to do that.
Not the place.
It should be done ahead of time. Like, studio time is, for what it is, it's expensive,
Mhm.
because it's, it takes a lot to run a studio, and time is money, and
Right.
figuring out the structure of your song should not be something that you're doing in the
Correct.
studio.
For sure, man.
And to add to that, like even a little more like auxiliary things, like what about harmonies? Can we do harmonies here? I'm like, yeah, you can do harmonies for sure. In fact, like I could hear some harmonies in the chorus, right?
Right.
But if you don't have those figured out and you're not just like Johnny on the spot with that thing, then A, it's going to take a lot of time to figure them out. And then B, they're probably not going to turn out to where you want to keep them because you're just kind of going on the fly.
Right.
And that's not one of those things to do. And I see that happen a lot. And, I give everyone as much information as I can. I have like a pre-production guide that I send out.
Nice.
To like new.
Oh, that's cool. We should talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's got several bullet points. Try to keep it concise, but one of the things is song structure. Like, don't come in with a song that doesn't have the bridge written.
Yeah.
Right?
Come in with your song finished.
Come with the song finished,
Yep.
And work that out with yourself, or if you have a band, of course, get all the parts, everyone's parts figured out. Other parts is secondary parts like harmonies, right? And the main reason I say that is like a lot of the singer-songwriters I write don't have a band member that's responsible for that.
Okay,
They're responsible for both parts, right?
Yep.
So they need to be thinking about that ahead of time. And then, there's a lot of preparation, and this kind of goes back to the stage as well, on your instrument.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Good rule of thumb is have fresh guitar strings, but don't change them the morning of the session.
Yeah.
Like,
please don't change your guitar strings the morning of. Don't do that. Please.
Do it a day or two before and play it. Work it, work some of that brightness out to get it to, you don't want dead, but you don't want fresh. You want a little bit in between.
Little in between there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
I totally agree, man. Yeah.
So that's a good rule of thumb for guitar players. Drummers, you can put new heads on the morning of, or even in the studio if you need to, and they can be tuned up right. But a little bit of working is not bad there as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And then same thing for bass is a little different. You can just
just show up with your bass
strings on.
Like, whatever.
When was the last time you changed them? It's been a year. They sound great.
Too funny, man.
Classic, right?
I'm thinking of I don't know when the last time I changed my bass strings was. Actually, it's been a while. It's been a hot second.
Yeah, it's like fine wine.
It is like a fine wine.
They get
those
better
bass
over
strings.
time. They're
a little bit of rust on the round wounds, and
they're the exception to the rule on that stuff for sure.
They sure are.
Yeah. But vocals, like this is another one that's like people don't think. I mean, the more you do it, the more you become like in tune with this. And I know you can speak because you're a vocalist, right? But from my perspective, coming into the studio, it's like, okay, what can I do to prepare? Well, you want to be well rested.
Yeah.
Right. You want to get a good night's sleep before your session starts. And beyond that, you don't want to have been like talking way too much or even rehearsing or singing too much the night before. You want to give yourself some rest. Like, you need to, the rehearsal one is important, but should have been doing that weeks leading up to. Not cramming it all in right before, because then you're going to be kind of strained.
There'll be some strain
the day of, and you're going to be like, I can do it better than that. And we're like, yeah.
And let's live there for a second, because I'm really passionate about this.
Well, let's talk about that.
Having done this a lot, I mean, like, the early years of my career were just singing.
Yeah.
So, like, I was just singing.
Yeah.
Full time. And one of the mistakes that I see people make all the time with singing is they don't think about their voice as a muscle.
Yep.
Okay. Like, if you were going to go do like a marathon, if you're going to run a marathon, you would not the day before run that marathon.
Right.
To make sure that you can run your marathon.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Like, you're just not going to do that, you know? Take a day of rest beforehand. I mean, this thing is a muscle. It's a delicate group of muscles. And you need to train them. You need to get them to a place where they can do what you're asking them to do.
Yeah.
But every time you work them out, there's a cool off period, and they need to regrow and redevelop, and that's what gets them stronger.
Totally.
So I think that's super important.
Yeah.
Hydration is also crazy important.
Yes.
Crazy important. There are all kinds of tricks and things like that vocally that people talk about.
Yeah.
Some of them work.
Yeah.
Some of them don't. Some of them are dependent on the person.
Yeah.
The one thing that does work is hydrating.
Yeah.
Like,
Drink
get
lots of water.
hydrated, tons of water, pump some water.
Yep.
I have a personal rule where if I'm going to be like singing the next day extendedly at all, like whether I'm recording or I'm, performing or whatever, just as one example, the only thing I drink exclusively for the entire day before is water.
Yeah.
I drink literally nothing else.
Yeah.
Just water.
Good practice.
And, and I try to hit a benchmark, of, I don't really do ounces, but
certain number of glasses kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. 8 glasses of water or whatever. And
probably should be doing that every day. But
probably should, but most of us don't,
That's true.
That is what's going to really kind of like make the difference.
Yeah.
If you have allergies, a lot of people have allergies that do weird things to their vocals. Develop a routine there, whether it's like, like I've talked to my doctor and I'm on Flonase or like a saline rinse or whatever, but don't start doing that the day before.
Yes.
For the same reason as the marathon analogy.
Yes.
Like, you do not want to do that. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, that's part in my guide. I have something similar to that. Not exactly the allergy one, but like for all you smokers out there, like if you're a cigarette smoker or vapor or whatever, don't you think about that. You're like, oh, well, maybe I should. I'm going to the studio, so maybe I should just not do this for the day, just to help my voice out.
Ooh, bad idea.
In theory, it makes sense, but in practice, it's actually bad.
Right.
Because what's going to happen is it's going to build up phlegm in your throat, and then because you're changing your routine, right? And you're throwing a curveball at your vocal cords, basically, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Now, for the record, like, stop smoking.
It's probably not good.
You should
probably
probably
not
stop.
good for your voice.
But maybe just don't do it like the week that you're going to go record or going to perform, especially for the first time. Like,
exactly.
Anyway, just felt like we needed to get that out there.
Yeah,
but
that's good advice.
It's a good idea.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
anyway, yeah.
The back to the water thing. This was kind of like a pro tip thing. Room temperature.
Exactly.
Water.
Yes.
Don't drink ice water when you're about to go perform, because it will constrict your vocal cords, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. For sure. Yeah, man. That's good. I feel like there's just a lot of overlap with stage and studio.
Yeah.
But one thing I do want to point out is that when we're talking about getting ready to record some of your original music, and this is something that I've talked to a lot of people about, you need to have some stage experience. Like,
yeah, that's good.
and when you do, because when you've done that, when you've played your song, over and over in front of people, it will feel so much similar. Like, it will feel so similar when you get into a studio environment because you've done it before. You're not thinking about your song arrangement. You're not thinking about the harmonies.
Yep.
Your song needs to be to the point where you can just show up and perform it. because that saves you a lot of money when you
Yeah.
hit the studio.
Yeah.
Because it saves you a lot of time.
That's right.
You're going to feel way more confident in your song and in your craft.
Yeah.
And it's all just going to
Yeah.
sync up and click.
Absolutely.
The best way to do that is, get some reps.
It's
if you're in a band,
yeah.
practice with your band a ton,
Mm-hmm.
book some shows, play
Yep.
some open mics,
Yep.
whatever. And when you feel like the song is, because it's twofold. One of them is you need to know that your song is good.
Yes.
And you'll know that if people
react
to your song when you play it live.
Right.
You also need to know your song.
Yeah.
So playing live gets you there.
Yeah.
And you can't really fudge that. Like
No,
there's not a way around it.
There's no shortcut on that one.
Right.
And another benefit there, like I'm glad you're bringing that up because I've seen this many times. And now there are some exceptions to what I'm about to say, but most of the time when a band has got a new song that they've written and they've got studio time coming up, and let's say that they've scheduled that studio time for an EP and there's going to be 4 songs on the EP.
Yeah.
All those songs have been tested like what you're saying. They've been playing them for months. Maybe some could even be over a year old. You never know. But then they write a new one a couple weeks before they're coming in the studio and they decide to record the new one too.
Yeah.
Now, what happens with this most of the time is, and there's going to be, like, recording is an interesting thing. I always like to look at it as, like, you're capturing a moment in time.
You are exactly doing that.
Right?
Yeah.
And so as you've captured that moment, you're gonna, like, months later, years later predominantly, you're gonna listen back or look back and be like, man, we do it so much better now, or we could have done it better. But it's always going to be that way. And that should never stop you from recording because it's always going to happen. It's the evolution, it's the growth of the song. But when the song is only 2 or 3 weeks old, you're liable to maybe even change a part or something like in a couple months.
Even change a lyric.
Yeah, change a lyric, change a part, add a harmony somewhere that you didn't record, and then the song is already released, and it's like, man.
Yep.
It feels good and fresh playing a new song. I mean, it's one of the best feelings whenever, the band like solidifies the new song and they can play that together live or even rehearsal.
Yeah.
But recording it, although you get that same good feeling, it's maybe not the best idea because you're kind of be stuck with what you got.
Yeah.
Of course you can re-record it, but
right.
Why?
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
Just let it season a little bit, right? Yeah.
I forget which one it was, but there's a Kanye West album that came out. It's the one that has it's like the blue disc. I can't remember which one it is. It was like his first gospel record.
Yeah.
And I think that happened with that.
Oh.
Because it was scheduled for release, and then he kept if I remember correctly, he kept canceling the release and pushing it back.
Okay.
And then they were doing new versions of the song and things like that. And I couldn't help but think at the time, I remember thinking, I wonder if these are just really, really new songs. Because maybe he's not quite there.
Right.
Anyway, I actually love that album.
Yeah.
It gets a lot of heat. Some people hate it, but it wound up being good. I just remember reading that it went through so many different iterations of releases, and I was like, huh,
that's
okay.
interesting.
It is interesting.
That's wild
For sure.
Yeah. So be prepared, right?
Be prepared.
It's part
man.
of it. It's
Just
part of it.
Be prepared.
On that, I would be doing everyone an injustice if I didn't emphasize how important practicing with the metronome is.
Hugely
the
important.
click track, the metronome, the tempo, whatever you want to call it. You need to have that solidified, worked out, to the number for every song before you get into the studio. Because that is one thing that, it almost kind of goes back to the same thing of, recording a new song. If you don't have that and we're figuring it out on the fly, which happens a lot, then you're liable to listen to it a couple months later and be like, man, we played that too fast. And now it's recorded too fast.
Right.
It should have been 5 or 6 BPM less. Same thing on the other end. Slow. Could be too slow, But you can avoid that if you rehearse with the metronome ahead of time.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. And I want to live here for a little bit too, even from a stage perspective. Especially when I was working in churches, the number of people who pushed back on playing with a metronome, man,
it's crazy.
And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is how to make good music.
It's
like,
part of it.
It's just part of it.
Yeah, it's the time of the song.
Yeah,
it's very important.
It's super important.
Yeah, and it can change. Like, you can have a different time in your intro as your chorus and your verse.
Completely.
But you should be able to practice at those different numbers all along the way. Yeah. If there's a gradual speed up, you should be able to practice that.
Yeah, totally.
We can record it that way.
Right.
Yep,
so, I know. Yeah. And to me, that's just a fundamental aspect of being a good musician.
Yeah.
Is being able to play on time.
It's timing.
And like, if you can't do that, it's simply something to start practicing and start working on.
It is. And it's a skill just as much as the instrument.
Big time.
It is a skill. You have to practice it. It's just like learning how to sing well. Mm-hmm. It's just like playing your instrument. Like I said, it's a skill.
From a practical standpoint alone, like, you can't do punch in work.
Right.
If you're not on a metronome.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
It's literally impossible.
Exactly.
There has to be a standard. And
there's a grid in the
Yes.
system, and the grid lines up with the metronome, which is the tempo of your song.
Correct. Yeah.
And if you want to, record a part and then jump and record and come back and record another part, if you don't have that metronome, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to really have to sink in with what you've already done and hope that transition works. Mm-hmm. And it's not always going to work.
It's not always going to work.
Yeah.
And it will take a lot more time.
It'll take a lot more time, and it'll be frustrating. And then at the end of the day, like, the engineer, myself, I've been in this position before, will do everything you can to get it as close as possible, but there could still be a glitch. Like, you could be able to hear that was an edit, and that was not recorded at the same time.
Yes.
But with the metronome, it can be seamless.
Yeah.
It's a huge benefit.
It is, yeah. And one of the things that I have gotten asked by maybe some, like, smaller, medium-sized churches that I've worked with, like, going in and doing consultation, is, well, we want to record a live album.
Yes, live album.
And
awesome.
I've worked a lot of those. That's one of my favorite things to do, actually.
Okay.
But it's like, yeah, we want to do a live album because we love our worship team and we love their versions of these songs or whatever. And I'm like, that's great.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, but, like, we're not going to do it to a click track. And I'm like, that's not going to work out super great.
Right. Yeah.
Because overdubbing is a thing.
Yep.
We all do it.
Yep.
It has to be done.
Yep.
And there's literally no way to go back and overdub over something if there's no reference.
Yeah.
There's no click.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Exactly.
To it.
Exactly.
And, even if you wanted to just get multiple takes of the same band, like, you have to have that click as your reference to go back
if you want to use
take
parts.
Yeah. Take that part and put it in.
Yeah.
So it's just hugely important. Even if you're not a context where, like, you're playing along with tracks live, that's fine. The metronome, the click is still extremely important.
Oh, absolutely,
yeah. It will take a band who sounds pretty okay to a band that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I think of it like this. Wherever you're at musically, playing to the metronome will take you to the next level.
Exactly.
If you're good,
Yeah.
it's going to make you great.
Yeah.
If you're okay, it's going to make you good.
Right.
If you suck, you're probably still going to suck.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm just
got to draw the line somewhere,
we got to draw
right?
the line somewhere.
Yeah,
man.
totally.
Totally.
No, that's a good point. And I would say the exact same, tiered system works for your recordings.
Yes.
Because, like, if you, like, you box yourself in or put yourself in a corner if you don't use the metronome. Like, basically what will happen is, like you were saying, like, with a live album situation, like, you're not going to be able to take, like, the first half of one take and put it over top of the second. Like, everyone killed it. Like, once we got to the midway through the song, like, everything was perfect. That's the best we've ever played it.
Right.
But we fumbled a little bit on the front side. And I wish we had a full take of that, but not everyone got it, right? So if you were on the click and you did two and one you nailed on the front, you could use that front with the awesome back, and boom, you got the song, you got the composition, you got the final take. That's awesome all the way through. Right? And, like, there are some exceptions. The main exception, the reason I'm thinking about this like top of mind is I just had a session a couple of days ago with a jazz band.
Oh, nice. Yep.
And,
those could be exceptions.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exception there. So Jay Kilman and the Constellations, they're awesome. Local Wilmington jazz band.
Nice.
And we did not use a metronome for the whole day. They were here for 8 hours. We did 10 songs.
Yeah.
Everything was live.
Nice.
They did not use a metronome, but they accepted that we weren't going to be comping takes together. They all had to nail a take that they were happy with together. And so that meant that, we took upwards of 4 or 5 takes of the same song until they felt like, yes, number 3 was the best one. We're happy with that. We can have that out there.
Yep.
That's an exception. Now, granted, John Hill's like a metronome in and of himself. He's awesome.
Nice.
But
shout out.
Yeah, shout out to John.
Yeah.
So I was not worried when they said that, we're going to do it live. I'm like, okay, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
But they knew that, and there were takes where, Jay, the guitar player, is like, that was my best solo section. And then, one of the other members is like, well, I kind of botched a couple of things into that one. And they're like, well, we'll have to do it again, And Jay's like, well, I can't use that solo. I'm going to have to hope to get another one that I like just as good or better. And sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes you just take the average, of the best of everyone's parts.
For sure.
They ended up with some really great stuff, and I think they're going to be happy with it. I am happy with it, too. But
awesome. Yeah.
That's just a little exception there, but you see where I'm going. Like, if the metronome would have been in play, then we could have maybe made
You could have taken that solo section
and put it in there, because, the timing would have been the same.
Yeah. I know, man. It's a choice.
It is.
I think you can only make that choice if you're really, really good.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
I think that's true. You can afford to let it go if you're very seasoned and you haven't, like, it's funny. I don't know if you saw it. Rick Beato put out a video about I think it was a John Bonham drum part. It was just the drums. The drums were soloed.
Okay.
And they did a take with the metronome. And they did another take without the metronome. And it was obvious, and Rick was like, see, you don't always... His point, what he was trying to get is there's no rules in the studio.
Yeah.
Which is true to a degree. Like, everything that we're talking about here are guidelines, right?
Sure, totally.
They're, tips and tricks and advice that we've, ran across. But there's no hard rules in the music world. And so you can get to the same place in a couple different ways. And so the takeaway was, it sounded better without the metronome. The performance did.
Nice.
And, I think it was kind of a swing beat kind of thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which makes a little more sense.
It does.
Without the click track. But the funny thing is, it's like, that's John Bonham.
Yeah.
It's
John Bonham.
He's one of the greats, right?
So I guess the question to ask yourself is,
are you John Bonham?
Are you John Bonham?
Yeah. If you're John Bonham, you don't need it.
I'm not John Bonham.
I'm not either.
Yeah.
And a lot of, the people that I work with, even though they're great, like, they're, you got to reality check yourself. Like, is the metronome something that can be a tool to help you, or are you killing it and maybe you don't need it? And even the ones that are killing it, they're using it a lot all the time too.
Oh yeah.
Maybe they chose not to use it on that swing song, but on the rock tune, they probably did, right?
Yeah.
Things like that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It can be a game changer.
Yeah.
But.
And one of my someone I was working with was talking to me about that video, and they didn't want to use the metronome, and they're like, see, they didn't use it, and it turned out great. And I'm like,
Sometimes you're just like, yeah.
Okay,
whatever.
Like, well, are you them?
Are you them?
Yeah.
Are you that guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. There's a lot of resistance because I think people feel like it's non-musical to play with the metronome or perform with it on stage. But it can be if you make it part of your routine with, rehearsal, then it doesn't feel foreign
Mm-hmm.
when you turn it on.
Right.
And ultimately it'll be turned off.
Yeah.
So,
At this point, man, I don't even notice it's there.
Yeah. It's just
It's
part
just
of it.
part of it, man.
It's part of
It's
it.
just a part of it. And
Totally.
yeah.
So,
Anyway, well, cool. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this question then. So we've talked a little bit about kind of how, like, what to do before your first time on stage, before your
Yeah.
first time
Yeah.
in the studio, like what to do.
mm-hmm.
Let's just approach the other direction.
Okay.
What should you not do
What not
your
to
first
do?
time in studio?
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. Well, I guess some of those like more technical things, like back to the don't quit smoking,
Mm-hmm.
don't change your guitar strings the day of
Right,
kind of
right.
thing. We'll assume those are already covered.
Mhm.
So then what not to do? I think don't get too, and this is easier said than done for sure, but don't get too far in your head. Like
That's good. That's
have a good, like, come into the studio with a positive attitude with as much as possible.
Yeah.
And everyone's got something going on all the time. But if you can come in and say, I'm going to put that stuff away for now and I'm going to focus, I'm here to make music. I'm here to make my song a high quality recording of my song that people are going to hear.
Yeah.
And I should just enjoy it.
Right.
Because it will fly by.
Mm-hmm.
Studio time goes by so fast. It's like a vortex of time in here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And, it'll be there and gone before you know it. And you just need to enjoy it while you're there.
Right.
And have a good time with it.
Totally.
So what not to do in the studio. I mean, you want to have a good time, and what not to do on that is just try not to like be too stressed out. Try to block some things out. Try not to not let those things, take over your mind in the studio, because it can be a stressful thing because you're kind of under a time constraint,
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the number one thing that gets people. And I have a little slogan: relax, record.
I was about to say, what's your slogan here, man?
Relax, record.
Yep.
And like that's something that I kind of came up with very early on through my experiences recording before I had my own studio.
Mm-hmm.
And like just takeaways from different studios that I was in, and like what felt good, and like what was the most important thing. And it was, a couple days into a full-length record I was doing with my band in early college days, and it was like by that time we were comfortable because we had been in the studio for multiple days with the engineer. And I was like, this is relaxing. Like it was great. Like I was like, relax, record. Like that's what we're going for.
That's it, man.
That's what we're shooting for. And
That's
so
it.
I think like time management in the studio is a critical thing. You shouldn't stress too much about it because nothing's gonna be perfect. Nothing's gonna flow exactly the way, even if you like bullet pointed it out hour by hour, right? It's probably not gonna go that way.
Right.
But that's just something you just have to accept. And you get done as much as you can get done. And if you need to book more time, you have to book more time.
Yeah. It is
on,
what it is.
On the alternative, some people come in and they cruise.
Yeah,
And they fly
for sure.
by. And maybe they'll have booked, 5 days and we only need 4. That happens for sure. And so a couple ways I think that you can help yourself in the first times in the studio to have good time management is think about what instruments you're doing. Let's say you're in a band scenario. So you've got a drums, bass, guitar, keys, and vocals, right?
Yeah.
So if you're tracking everything separately, and let's say you're doing an EP or album, you can divide out the days into the instruments.
Yeah.
And say, this is bass day, this is keyboard day. And so I feel like that gives the player of that day a little bit of comfort to know that they've got the day to do their thing.
Right.
They don't have to hurry up and, finish all their parts by such hour because the guitar player needs to do his parts.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I think it's good to do that way. And, if you get ahead of schedule, then sure. But by that time, you're feeling good, right? So the other way, if you have a shorter list of songs, maybe 1 or 2 songs, or you have just a shorter amount of studio time and you need to stay on a budget, which is very common, then you can try to limit yourself on an hourly basis. The way I like to look at it is almost like 1 hour per instrument per song. That's generous.
Yeah.
You should be able to do it quicker than that. But if you give yourself that much time and know, okay, I've got this song, I got an hour to do my part, then that kind of gives you an idea of are we staying on track, or is our time being used well?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
those can make for tight days, though. Sometimes
they really can.
I mean, yeah,
they really can.
I've been there.
I've had a project where the budget was so tight, then they wanted to do it, and I was like, I'm gonna make it whatever I can make it for you guys, and my help as best I can. They limited themselves to 30 minutes per song, per part, per player. So it was like, you got 30 minutes to do the drums for this song, and if you can't get it done, then we're going to take the best thing we got.
Yeah.
And
we're going to move on.
We're going to move on.
Yeah.
So, a little more stressful there, but it's still not a bad way to divide it out. That's the extreme case, but just things like that can help.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Solid point, man. Solid.
What do you think about on the other end of that?
Oh, yeah.
Spectrum?
Okay. Well, I would say for the stage side of things,
do's and don'ts, and then maybe some time management stuff.
Yeah. I would say definitely, as we've already talked about, kind of beating this dead horse, but be prepared.
Yeah.
Show up, be prepared. Do show up early.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, don't show up right on time. Show up early.
Yeah.
Time is either your best friend or your worst enemy.
That's right.
That's what I always say. And so
definitely don't be late.
Yeah. Do not be late. If you're late, I don't even know what to say. Just don't be late.
Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely do that. Do prepare not just in terms of your music, but be prepared for the venue.
Yeah.
So, ideally a venue's going to tell you where load-in is and what time it is and all that kind of stuff. If they don't, for some reason, be preemptive and proactive and call them up or shoot them an email and be like, hey, what time do I need to be where?
Yeah.
Where's the green room? Whatever. All that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So just be prepared.
Know where to park.
Right.
How far, how much time is it going to take you in the distance to load your gear from where you have to park to where the stage is,
Which is why extra time is pretty helpful to have. Because sometimes it's like, oh, yeah, well, you have to park 4 blocks away.
Yeah. And there's no loading zone.
There's no loading zone.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, that's why all my stuff is on casters.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Roll it down.
Roll it down. Roll it down. But, so yeah, those are do's. I would say kind of like some don'ts. Don't be entitled.
Yeah.
Don't show up and just think that, your crap don't stink.
Right.
Because nobody likes that.
No.
And when you need help, no one's going to help you.
That's true.
It's just, and we all need help.
That's
sometimes.
Right. Everybody needs a little help from their friends, right?
Exactly. So do that. And that goes not just for the musicians that you're around, but I feel like I can say this as an engineer, but be nice to your engineer.
Yeah.
Your sound guy, your sound girl, they're just trying to help you out. They want you to sound incredible because it's their job.
Yeah. That's right.
They have a vested interest in making you sound really, really good.
That's right.
So, help them out.
They're going to go a little above and beyond for you. If you're super nice to them, if you like something, tell them. Give them a compliment. They will be so happy to hear that, you know. If you don't like something, approach that in a polite way.
Exactly.
And it is not a big deal. They expect it to not be perfect right out the gate.
Correct.
So, just say, hey, I could use a little bit more of vocal in the monitor.
Right. Or whatever.
Everything else sounded great. That's cool. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Sound people are pretty easy. They can be. Yeah. They just kind of want you to feel good.
Yeah.
If you're feeling good, they'll feel good. Now, there are some jerks out there, don't get me wrong. But
kind of a bad stigma sometimes.
There is. But
when
push comes to shove, they really they want it to sound good.
Yeah. That's right.
And they want to do whatever it takes to get it to sound good. So if you have special requests, that's cool.
Yeah.
Again, time can be your friend there. Like if you can email those ahead of time.
Ahead of time.
Like ahead of time is great because if I can set things up the way that you want it before you get there, if you give me a stage plot, give me a stage plot.
Right, exactly. Like, hey, I've got a laptop that needs an 1/8" connector to get my. It's like, well,
yeah, it's like, well,
either
it's going to
you
take.
better bring that, or you need to let a dude know, right?
Yeah, and it's setup time too. It's like, okay, I can do this for you. It's going to take 10 to 15 more minutes or whatever, and then you're going to feel like you don't have an adequate sound check.
Right.
And
you get 2 songs, and everything's got to be figured out.
Yeah, which goes back to be prepared.
Be prepared.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
So,
time management.
Time management. But yeah, those are kind of the 2 big ones I would say that I see.
Those are good.
Those are the biggies.
For sure.
And I guess like on the opposite side of things, like when the show is over, you know, everyone's going to be like trying to get their stuff out of there.
Yeah.
So just be patient.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that probably has to get moved around.
Right.
Do what you can to keep your station clean.
Yep.
You know, your area really clean and everything.
Don't trample. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're going to get home eventually.
Yeah.
It may be 2 a.m.
Right.
But you're going to get there.
You're going to get there.
So
it'll be
just
relax.
Relax.
Perform.
Relax. Perform.
Yeah, there you go.
Doesn't quite have the same ring to it, but same idea.
Yeah, same idea.
Same idea.
For sure. I like that.
Cool. Well, dude.
I think that's a pretty good place to wrap things up.
I think so.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. So on our way out, then let's just. What are you working on now? Tell me about what you got going on.
Yeah. So this is what we're going to do this at the end of every episode. We're basically just going to talk about.
Yeah.
What are you working on this week?
Yeah. Real world
what's on the hard
stuff.
drive.
That's right.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll go. I've been working on a video project this week, and so I'm wrapping that up. I actually wrapped it up, finished editing, sent it to the client. I guess last week, and turned out really good. You know, they were happy with it, but they came back and they're like, "Hey, we need this translated into Spanish. Is that something that you can do?"
Yeah,
I've never done that before, so I started doing some research, and I've been working on it this week. I'm using this really cool AI translation tool.
Oh,
it's actually by this company called 11 Labs.
Okay.
And they have this really neat AI editing tool.
Nice.
It's pretty reasonable, especially if you kind of consider like the cost of paying an actual transcription service, which is like cha-ching.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been kind of unique. I've never done anything like that before, but I'm doing some audio, Spanish translation and mixing, and
AI coming in clutch.
I know, man. AI is doing some cool things.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not perfect, but it's pretty good.
Well, that's cool.
So what about you, man?
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So I'm wrapping up things with Jay Kilman and the Constellations, the jazz group.
Awesome.
Working on some file prep and stuff for them. So that one just kind of finished up this week. And then ongoing stuff, I've got a group called Solar Fusion.
Okay.
That we're in the beginning of the mastering stage.
Sick.
So finished everything else, just wrapped up the mixes, got the green light approvals at the tail end of last week. So I'm going to be wrapping up their masters this week, and
solid
things will be good. Yeah.
Awesome. What kind of band are they?
They are they're interesting, man. They're kind of like an eclectic mix of like folk and blues.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And they've got some Americana vibe in there for sure. They're great. There's really good songwriting. I'm into the lyrics a lot. That's probably the one thing that draws me in the most.
Nice, love that.
Tim is a good lyricist. The bass player, Alex, is really awesome as a bass player myself.
Nice.
I'm very interested in what she's got going on.
For
and
sure.
She kills it, man. She plays a fretless bass.
Oh, dude, so cool.
Yeah, she's got a good tone. She's got a really good tone. And they're a great duo.
Sweet.
It's a good team.
Awesome. All right, dude.
Yeah.
I think we just finished the first episode.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've
so
covered
too.
the bases.
Nice.
I think we're good. So
awesome.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks so much for tuning into this first time that we've done this. It's been really cool. It's been really fun. We're really looking forward to the rest of these coming out. And stay tuned. We've got some really exciting things we're going to be talking about. Might even be talking to a few people along the way, having some guests in here down the road.
That's right. Yeah, pull in some people that have a certain expertise on some topics to join us in conversation to share their stories and insights.
Yep.
And this has been a lot of fun.
It has.
Cool.
And if you guys want to hear anything specific, please Put that in the comments section. We're going to be monitoring that.
Yep.
Shoot us an email if you want to. It's just audiopathpodcast@gmail.com.
That's right.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you. We want
do.
to really cater to your actual needs.
Yeah, like tell us what you're interested in, what you want to know more about, what you're curious about. We want to build a community. We'd love for you guys to start talking to each other. We just want to talk and have some conversations with not only ourselves but with the community.
With you all.
Yeah.
So
hit us up.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps it up.
All right.
Until next time.
That's right.
Stay on the path.
Stay on the path.